Welcome. Happy post Eclipse or whatever the hell that was. Tuesday, it's Dr. Jason Dean, BraveTV, your source for health, freedom, and knowledge. I have a guest on today. As always, Chris from survivaldispatch.com. It is Tuesday, but I have a funny one for him. So, Chris, I getting ready to go on. My daughter is cleaning stuff out. And I think my daughter has been programmed DNA-wise she comes from a different somewhere because she's 10 years old. She loves like survival stuff. She like finds her wind-up radio, her old wind, like wind or whatever, and she'll get it. She'll wind it and sit and listen to the weather stuff for like whatever. She just listens to it, and then it's funny because she my wife is an athlete. I was an athlete. My wife and I obviously grew up in like the 80s. She's a 2013 kid, and she listens to 80s music, 70s music. She wears like leopard print clothes that we have no idea where any of this comes from. But she tells me, she goes, during the hurricanes, she takes out the radio and she'll wind it up and listen. And she goes, "Dad, I love harsh weather. I want to know what's going to happen." And I'm like, "You're from a different time, kid. I don't know. We didn't teach any of this to you." I think it's fascinating with kids.
Very, very, very interesting to hear.
So she's in prep mode.
What's old is new again.
She's she understands survival, so she's ready to go if we need to bug out.
Right on.
Oh God, how are you, man?
Busier than a one-legged cowboy in an ass-kicking competition.
I love it.
Swan.
How did your video go last week? The one you were promoting?
The one with Admiral Harward that was on drones.
I think so. Yeah.
You know, we broke the story of having intel on that last October, shortly after 10/7, that we'd been given intel that there were known terrorist plans here in the homeland to hit open air venues with either aerosolized fentanyl or aerosolized anthrax. And the anthrax that they have, by the way, is a 100% antibiotic resistant strain that the Russians created a formula for many, many years ago. So, of course, the pundits came out of the woodwork with their knives. And lo and behold, a couple days after that, somebody flew a drone into the Cleveland Browns football stadium on a Thursday night game, and everybody stood there just gazing up at it. If it had been paragliders, they would have been running for their lives. And then 1 week to the day after we published that video, there was an RFP published on the front page of SAM.gov, so Supply and Management. All federal government contracts go through there, requesting proposals for ultra lightweight EMP-based weapons that could be mounted on drones to shoot a concentrated EMP at an enemy drone, take out the circuit board, make it crash, hopefully gather some intel from it, and not have collateral damage. None of that is in full production as of yet, but we have some really interesting connections there, and the Admiral was one of them. So probably the scariest piece of information that he gave us, and there's been very little coverage on this, is that the Israelis are using AI-powered drones to hunt and kill Hamas, especially in the tunnels. And so when you put these drones in tunnels, they have no, link back to the mothership, right? So they have no requirement to have, communications and radio frequencies. So this is like Terminator Skynet level stuff, because the drones are making decisions on their own of who they should kill and not kill. They're also using them above ground, but again, they're completely autonomous. And that's what killed those UN observers a week from this past weekend. So the AI piece is really, really scary, number one. Number two, the Admiral's father, who was also an admiral, was in charge of a program in the late 1950s and early 1960s to use remote-controlled helicopter drones to launch torpedoes at Soviet subs. And that all of that information, some of that information is just coming to light under FOIA requests. So it's been around a long time. Then one of our viewers actually sent us a thing that in World War II, the Germans had remote-controlled tanks, small, almost like an RC car, right? And they would drive them underneath our tanks or, vulnerable locations, and they would
Blow
detonate
them
on the
up.
spot. So way, way, way ahead of its time, right? And the problem with all this drone stuff, this is one of the number one threats that we face. So for starters, the Mexican cartels are using drones to attack each other. So they've got armaments on them. They're using them to fly drugs into the country because they can fly below radar levels and they're small enough they can't be detected. So they're dropping drugs on this side of the border. They're also being used as escorts for these illegal invaders. So if something happens, they don't have to worry about losing one of their men or a group of their men. They just literally guide the people who paid them to get them to the border there. Um, it's this is a really, really vulnerable spot for all of us. There's no good defense. So my youngest stepson is stationed at Fort Benning. He's an instructor. He's currently teaching 5-man squads on what to do if they encounter a low-level drone. So ISRs, like intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance drones, predators, they all fly at 5, 10,000 feet up. You can't see them or hear them. But here's what the U.S. Army is teaching our troops: drop a smoke bomb, which does absolutely nothing when you have thermal cameras that pick up heat signatures, and every drone has that.
Right.
And then number two, shoot the drone down with your 5.56 duty rifle. So anybody who's ever hunted birds before will tell you that's an extremely tall order. So there's some innovative stuff going on as far as trying to defend against these drones. So you've got a drone, you know how
Mm-hmm.
they've got a gimbal, typically at least one gimbal on the bottom
Yep.
for the camera. So a friend of mine from U.S. Arms Company, Eric McMillan, just bought a $20,000 DJI drone, and he's building out a project for the DoD where this drone has two gimbals. So, and you can transfer information between the gimbals, right?
Yep.
So this guy's a mad scientist. He's got all kinds of firearms patents and stuff. So he's built a minigun that particular drone can carry, plus 6,000 rounds of somewhat obscure 22 caliber rounds, not LR. I don't want to give it out because this is all top secret
Yeah.
stuff. I
Yeah.
don't want to grenade his plans, but are you ready for this? That thing can lock onto another drone with the cameras attached to the gimbal, transfer the coordinates to the rear
Gimbal.
gimbal, pardon
Yep.
me, where the minigun is, and strafe it. And at 6,000 rounds, and his goal is to get it to 10,000 rounds. He's a super smart guy, so 6,000 is on the conservative side. But here's the problem with that stuff, though, is that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard in 2019 used a piece of software from Hollywood called Drone Swarm, which is where one operator can control up to 5,000 drones simultaneously. They use that with only 20 drones to fly into Saudi Arabia, attack the main oil production facility in Saudi Arabia. In 20 minutes, they knocked out 5% of the global oil production. So there's no good defense for this. Imagine somebody flying 20 drones over a football game, okay? And you're going to try and take them down with kinetic munitions.
Right.
So missiles, whatever the case. Can you imagine the collateral damage and the fallout from that? Not to mention the fact that if they have a chemical or biological payload, it's still getting distributed. So
Of
you haven't
course.
stopped anything there whatsoever. This gets even worse because the laws have not caught up with this. So if you were looking out your window right now and there was a drone flying outside that window, believe it or not, it is against federal law for you to interfere with that drone because it's considered an aircraft by the FAA. So no matter how you take it down, whether you shoot it or otherwise, you're guilty of a federal crime. And if you
Which
want
is
to talk,
insane. I mean, the spying capability, the even if it was just even like not even government, Chris. Like, what if somebody in the area was just a bad person? There's tons of pedos and tons of whatever. Like, they could just be scouting people's homes for like kids and stuff. It's insane.
so we did a story on burglary tourism. So our southern border is not just letting people in who want to be here, not just letting people in who are terrorists. It's letting criminal gangs from Central and South America into the country. They commit a robbery or an abduction, and then they leave the country and go back to where they came from with either their physical spoils or a hostage situation. We know of two of them, two hostage situations where they were taken out of the country. One of the families was wealthy, paid the ransom, got their family member back. The other one The other family couldn't pay the ransom, and their family member was killed. So the usage scenarios are pretty big. So the burglary tourists, what they're doing is they're targeting communities where there's more wealthy people, and they're
Mm-hmm.
casing people's homes with these things, right? It, and let's just swing to some, non-criminal organizations. Insurance companies are now using drones to surveil homeowners and compare it to their policies. So, for example, here's a concern I have. I dry fire train 5 days a week in my backyard religiously, and I have some new training rifles that take it a notch way above the regular just Mantis X stuff. Well, what happens if they see me training out there and decide that because I have guns, I'm a dangerous person? They
That's
drop my
right.
policy. You know, I've read stories of insurance companies saying it's not applicable to us, but we're canceling your home insurance policy because there's a lot of stuff in your backyard that looks flammable.
It's true though. You're right.
I kid you not. Like so you have no privacy short of putting up, camouflage netting like Vietnam era stuff. You have no privacy in your backyard, front yard, anywhere outside of your home for that matter. This drone situation, it doesn't matter if it's warfare. So there's no real against it from a warfare perspective. And you'll see people online saying, well, I'll just shoot them down or I'll shoot like some number 4 buckshot at them. Good luck with that. The range for those munitions is very short, and the drones are out of reach from that. Number one. Number two, some of these drones now have been equipped with uh, weapons detection and evasion systems. So you're talking basically like a CWIS or a CRAM, which the CWIS is on every Navy boat. It's got a dome that's the radar,
Yep.
shoots thousands of rounds per minute. And the land-based one's called the CRAM. You're basically looking at a condensed version of that on a drone. I mean, the FBI, which not a big fan of the FBI, but they say that the number one vulnerability that we have for an attack is drones. And I can tell you it is. I sent you a link earlier today because somebody had sent me a link to these Skynet shotgun shells that, fire a net. The the distance on that's going to be very, very small. So, and you don't have to be that low. Like you can even have, I mean, this is a fairly cheap
Here's what
drone.
you had, right? This is it.
Yep. So this drone, I want to say is like $700, but I can fly this drone up to 10,000 feet, not legally, but that's what the range of it is. And the cameras are so good that there's no way that those shotgun shells shooting a net are going to impact this device unless I'm at really, really low altitude. But we're going to find out because we ordered some of those shotgun shells. We're going to shoot the sucker down with it and see what happens. My
God.
my prediction is maximum of 50 to 60 feet maximum. So we shall see.
Oh, not my internet, just the internet. That's weird.
Right. Yeah, we've had some sporadic connectivity with our Spectrum account recently as well. And being a certified network engineer from all the years I spent in high tech, I'll go check it 1 minute and the throughput and the latency is great. I'll check it the next minute and it's absolutely terrible. So anyway,
Okay. I think
on
we're, I
that
think we're good.
top,
I think we're good. So you were saying you think you could get it from 60 feet is about where you're saying.
I think it's maximum 50 feet.
Okay.
Next trip to Georgia, we'll test it where it's safe.
That's not very high though.
No, I mean the thing is I mean drones can react really fast. Like if you're watching and you're listening, because ours also has a mic on it, and something like that goes off, I mean you could literally hit the joystick to go up in elevation, and you're out of range in the blink of an eye. So you'd have to be pretty low for something like that to work. Now, where they might be beneficial is the Ukrainians have pioneered kamikaze drones, and I don't know if you've seen them or not, but they will literally chase Russian troops until they're basically right beside them and explode and take the troop out. Lots of videos on X that'll show that, by the way.
What do you do with what do you do with the world going forward where it comes obviously everything changes and evolves over a period of time, and clearly the wireless systems and the Starlink and everything, and we're going into this world. How do you wrap your mind around and embrace a future of intelligence, cyber, actual warfare, uh, jets, ships in the sea? How do we wrap our mind around it operating at this level where, again, the drone and wireless technology are going to rule, and it just changes our world? And I don't even know the right question to ask you. It's just kind of, I'm trying to wrap my mind around, this is totally different than what we're used to, right?
You've heard me say this before. There are lots of things that Elon Musk has done that I don't agree with, but there's lots of things that he has done that I'm thankful for. He's restored free speech on the internet. What he's done with X and the truth getting out there, none of it would be getting out to the masses if it wasn't for Elon Musk. So I tend to listen to what he's got to say and then research it before I form an opinion. But he's been quite vocal in saying these AI powered drones has bad juju written all over it. I can tell you that it goes a whole step beyond that. So Admiral Harward told me last week that there will never be an American military jet that flies over China with a human pilot. We're already at the level where we can send F-35s in there with no pilot, with an AI pilot that'll do better than a human being. We're not risking the person's life, and you're getting way faster reaction times and those sort of things. So I knew that was coming. I just didn't realize we're already there, according to the Admiral.
That brings up a strange question too. All my questions are strange. I just tell people I think strangely. If we go to no people in jets, shit, because you could do ships. I mean, literally everything can be run by essentially wireless technology. So that means you have non-human war. Okay, here's the question. What's the point of it all then? What's the point of war? I understand land, but what's the point if, like, kind of war is based on like taking people out in an unfortunate way. I'm pretty much an anti-war libertarian type of mentality. It's only we're self-defense, meaning if someone attacks us, you take them out, and I'm cool with that. But this whole like spreading war across the world is insane. Do we get to a point where we're just like throw our hands up in the air and go, what are we doing? Like, I mean, wireless warfare essentially.
Yeah, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So you're always going to have people who will stockpile and build, bigger, better, faster military weapons and machines. The scary part about this, again, coming from high tech, there's no such thing as an impenetrable system. Doesn't
Right.
exist.
Correct.
At the end of the day, it comes back to human design and engineer. It doesn't mean that it's easy, but you can break into pretty much anything you want if you have the proper skill set. Okay. So there's so many risks here, but one of the risks would be the bad guys hacking into our systems and taking control of our AI powered military and
Right.
sending out new instructions, and that's pretty scary. And we're right back to, you've heard me say this before, Cindy and I frequently say, so does art imitate life or does life imitate art? Because how many times have you seen something portrayed by Hollywood and then years later it comes to fruition? You can go all the way back to things like Star Trek and having a handheld communicator. It's a cell phone, for all intents and purposes, right?
I'm convinced at this point that we're running a giant script. I mean, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes just won Sunday night, and I'm like, okay, well, America's going through a nightmare. So how much of this is scripted? The WrestleMania storyline. I mean, you're right. Look back. I mean, we think we're the smartest civilization around, and you're right. Like there's ancient civilizations with hieroglyphs that look far more intelligent. I mean, there's nothing new under the sun, man. Like we're just coming through apparently a new cycle, another cycle of this BS. Like it's unreal.
I read an article last week, and I don't remember who it was from, but it was mainstream media that they basically put forward the hypotheses that we're living in a simulation like the Matrix.
Oh, I'm all about the simulation theory. It's part of my fun on the side of studying. It makes sense. It actually makes sense when you dive deeper into it. It's crazy. I mean, I'm actually working to get a guy on camera. He does a lot of stuff already, and his name is Jason Brashears. I'll send you his contact because you might find it interesting. He has a thing called archaics.com. He believes that actually it's built and run by AI, like the actual system, which the crazy part is it's not like it's his theories. He spent years and years in jail because he actually was a juvenile. He went to jail and he messed up and he knew he messed up. So he spent his time in jail for 20 years knowing he messed up. So he wanted to improve himself the whole time. So he went and found all the old ancient books, Chris, and none of his opinion. He just started writing down from that over to this, to his own paperwork. And when he goes through and he does the math, Chris, like, it's scary in a good way because like you realize you're learning something out of it. But like when he exposes it all, you're like, this is crazy. And the more we look at what you're looking at, the survival stuff, even just political, it's almost like the facade is crashing down because more and more people are like, wait, what are we doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many bonehead decisions being made these days by governments around the world. If it is a simulation, are they pushing it to see just how far, the rest of us will tolerate it before everything goes to hell in a handbasket?
I know. That's what I ask. Are they pushing it, or do they not even know what's going on? I mean, it's hard to say at this point. I mean, when you look at what's going, like even yesterday, we have millions of people flocking to the center of the country to look at this eclipse, which is interesting, right? I mean, no one's really, there's no Department of Transportation saying, hey, let's like make sure people are safe so they can, they're just non-existent. Like our government is technically non-existent, which I don't want government ruling things, but we could do some better messaging.
Yeah, I mean, the Eclipse thing yesterday, and we mentioned it in advance and didn't dwell on it too much, was a nothing burger. The press will use just about anything to whip people up into a frenzy.
Of course.
I mean, they're in the business of selling FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Usually, though, when they promote something like the way they did with the Eclipse, it's masking something else, right? It's to draw people's attention elsewhere. But as far as we can tell, we didn't see anything strange happen yesterday at all.
Maybe the distraction was the eclipse and they're doing something else behind the scenes that took our minds off of what they were doing.
Yeah, entirely possible. I mean, we were looking on the surface, really. Is there anything they're trying to, bring our attention to and away from?
Right.
But who knows these days? I mean, what I do know is that there's a pattern of Americans migrating from urban environments to rural environments, and that's really the best thing that anybody can do at this particular point in time is get the hell away from the cities, because whatever's coming, when it kicks off, the last place you want to be is in a city.
100%. Absolutely 100%. Good stuff, man. Everybody head over to Survival Dispatch, survivaldispatch.com. Here you can check it out. Go check out their EMP protection. That one's a fun one. Check that all out, and go to their YouTube page and check out their videos. It's all also on Rumble. They're getting shadow banned everywhere. Everyone is. It's insane.
Except Cloud Hub.
Cloud Hub, you're not being shadow banned. Go to Cloud Hub.
Yeah.
We just have to get more people to understand what Cloud Hub is. But survivaldispatch.com.
Well,
go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just going to say Todd Callender, who owns Cloud Hub, also owns the intellectual property to the name Truth Hub. And
I love it.
They spoke with Devin Nunes from Truth Social,
Ooh.
Trump's platform, and direct back from their chief counsel said, you guys are welcome to use the name Truth Hub, even though, Truth
It's
Social
close, yeah.
is kind of in the same game. But Trump's not interested in squashing information or anything like that.
That's a big win for Todd and company.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so I would expect sometime over the next few months you'll see a rebranding process for Truth Hub.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it.
He didn't name Cloud Hub. That's what it was
No,
called.
yeah,
before.
yeah. No, but Truth Hub is brilliant. I mean, I mean, you can benefit from the True Social branding without being in legal consideration of it.
Absolutely.
Nice.
All right. Be safe.
Appreciate it, buddy. Survivaldispatch.com. Chris Heaven. Take care.
See ya.